Live. This is the show, the podcast, the live stream, where we talk about real solutions to real problems, real shit that affects real people. And today I was thinking, and many of us will probably say that we were thinking too. But what are you thinking about? And today I am thinking about thinking because I contend that most people don't really think about what they think about. In other words, do you ever think about thinking? One of the things that I've learned is that thinking requires effort. Thinking is not an autonomous process that just happens like breathing. Thinking is something that you actually devote some brain cycles to, some effort to actually producing a thought. Now, one of the things that we have to think about when we're thinking about thinking is what goes into our thoughts. What are the raw materials of our thoughts? In other words, our thoughts aren't formed in a vacuum, right? Our thoughts are the process or the result of our knowledge, of our experience, of our encounters, of our relationships. And all of these things go into producing thoughts. Now, one of the things that I contend many people don't think about thinking. They don't think about what they think about. And you might say that sounds a little redundant. It may even sound a little hair splitting, but bear with me for just a second, because when you think about what you're thinking, then what you do is you gain mastery or control over your thoughts. Now, granted, all of us, everybody gets a wild thought here and there. But if we actually apply some mental discipline to what we're thinking about, you'll find that you have more control over your thoughts. And if you have more control over your thoughts, you'll have more control over your words, you'll have more control over your actions, you'll have more control over your habits, over your character, and ultimately your destiny. So, how do you think about thinking? One is that you need to develop something that's called a meta thought. And a meta thought is a thought about a thought. Literally, that's what meta means. It's like, data about, like if you think about metadata is data about data. So a meta thought is like a thought about a thought. And what you do is you align your thought processes with your core values. And your core values are what is your why? What is it that gets you out of bed? What is it that motivates you? What is it that drives you? What is it that if you don't do this, you will just absolutely wither and die? So, first of all of your thoughts you need to be well aligned with your core values. They need to be aligned with your why. Now, once you've done that, and you've aligned your thoughts with your why, now you need to understand what is this thought about? What is the guiding or the guardrails for this thought? Because a lot of times we have thoughts based on our hopes, we have thoughts based on our fears, we have thoughts based on our financial situations or about our relationships, and again. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. For example, a lot of us worry about finances. We worry about whether or not we're going to have enough money to meet our obligations, whether we're going to have enough money to pay our bills, and all of this other stuff. Well, what you need to do then is you need to back that up and say, what am I thinking about my financial situation? In other words, what am I doing to produce the kind of value, to produce the kind of income that I want, so that I don't produce a thought about whether or not I can make it to the next round. Now, granted, we live in tough times, and a lot of times there just isn't enough. I mean, right now there are so many people that don't have enough income to cover everything, and so we wind up living in debt. We wind up living from paycheck to paycheck. We wind up living negatively. And there are certain things that you can't really control. However, you can control the thought about it. Now, so if you know that there are things that you can do to improve your financial situation, then you work on the thoughts that produce a better financial situation, so that it produces thoughts that don't bog you down with financial worry. right? But if there are things, if you have situations and circumstances that you can't do anything about, like, for example, the kind of job that you have and all of that, well, in that case, you have to say, okay, how am I going to govern my thoughts considering my financial situation? And one of the things that you can do is, again, I've spoken about this a lot, is journaling or just writing down what you think. Sometimes, like, I'll be honest, I'm not a faithful journaler. I don't write down everything all the time, but I try to write things down so that I can go back and track where my original thought was on a particular thing. So I write this down, and that helps me track what I'm thinking at a particular time. So when I'm going down range, I go down a few days, a few weeks, a few months. I can go back and look and say, okay, what was I thinking about this at that particular time? And then I can find an origin point, and I can reverse engineer my thoughts. And that's really a powerful thing, is that when you're able to reverse engineer your thoughts back to your core values or back to what caused the original thought, then you can work on fixing the thought. So for those of you who read the Bible, there's a scripture in there that says, bringing every thought captive into the obedience of Christ, right? Well, how do you bring a thought into obedience? And here's the thing, when you talk about Christ, we're not talking about a person, we're talking about a consciousness. So the thing is that when you bring this thought into the captivity of your consciousness, what you're actively thinking. And here's another thing too. Practice active thinking. In other words, think about something and then think about why you're thinking about it. And then think about what the outcomes are, the potential outcomes are of that particular thought, and work through it. Because what this is going to do is this is going to cause you to think in a linear fashion. It will also make you think in a multidimensional fashion, and it will make you a thinker, period. Because that's the thing. When we talk about, like, beliefs, that's another thing. Beliefs. Most of us give no thought to what we believe. We believe it because either we were conditioned to believe it or we were indoctrinated to believe it. And we just leave it at that. We don't give any thought as to why we actually believe it, right? So the thing is that if you understand the process that forms the thought, then you'll think about, okay, why do I believe this? And again, when you start thinking, you start investigating, you start researching. And by researching, I don't mean going down rabbit holes and conspiracy theories and all of that. And it's easy to do that. What basically a rabbit hole is when you go down a path and you're basically spiraling out of control. You're not really providing any guardrails to the thought. You're just kind of plunging down this hole at warp speed, and whatever you find, you find. Well, when you have control thinking is basically, I know what it is that I'm looking for, or I know what range of things that I'm looking for, and I'm going to stay within that range. And here's the thing, whenever you think that you're getting down a rabbit hole, compare that thought, compare that research, compare that research to that original thought, and the guardrails that you've applied, the parameters for the thought or the research that you're doing, and that'll keep you from going down rabbit holes. It'll keep you from getting distracted. And that's another key point here, is that when you start thinking about thinking, you don't get distracted so much. I always think about that movie Up, Disney's Up, and the dog Doug, and he was like, squirrel. and he gets distracted. It's like anything that's like a squirrel, it distracts him. And so a lot of us, we have a lot of squirrels in our lives, and those squirrels just take us off in different directions. Well, you can avoid the squirrel by understanding what it is that you're trying to do. You can understand the squirrels by understanding what it is that you're actually looking for. What it is that what am I trying to learn right now? Or what am I trying to get more information on right now? And that keeps you from going down the rabbit trails, keeps you from getting distracted by squirrels. It keeps you focused. When you think about your thoughts, you develop another layer of focus. And let me say this, because I want to use myself as an example, because I'm a broad thinker. I'm a conceptual thinker. And so one of the things that happens with me is that I'm easily distracted. But when I think about what am I thinking about, and I go back to that ropes me back in, brings me back into focus, gets me back on track. And then I can go ahead and pursue what it is that what I'm actually thinking about, if that makes sense. So the big thing is think about what you're thinking about. Give thought to your thoughts. Give thought to your beliefs. Because again, and let me say this too. Give thought to your hopes and your dreams. Why do you hope for this? Why do you dream about this? If you understand the why, you'll begin to develop the how, the when, the where, the who, all of the other things that are required in bringing your dream or your hope to pass. But you have to really think about what you're thinking about. And that's really it. How many of you think about what you're thinking? How many of you really give thought to what you think about? How many of you know that your thoughts are governed by your core values? I want to know. Put it in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. And again, if this video helps you in any way, please like, share, subscribe. Let other people know about it, because listen, the things that I'm sharing are things that I have actually implemented in my life that have helped me produce some level of success, and I have an extremely good track record of success. And if you want to experience success and fulfillment as I do, then hey, this video may be for you, right? So, and again, if you're free on Friday nights, make sure you check out Freeology Friday with me and Aaron Tomlinson. We always have a good time, and then make sure you're tuned in to this space next week for another exciting episode of Forward Live. Until that time, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be filled with peace.